Season 20, Serial number 3, Episode number 125 overall. It is, of course, Mawdryn Undead. Written by Peter Bigrimwade, directed by Peter Moffat, produced by John Nathan Turner.
I know that name.
We all know that name. That man who ran Doctor Who in the 80s and arguably ran it into the ground, but I would say he had at least vision.
Ran it to the ground in the 80s or ran it to the ground more than once?
Oh, ran it into the ground in the 80s. There's a reason Doctor Who was cancelled, and it was people's perception of the show. But also, it wasn't entirely his fault. We'll get to it when we get to the cancellation time.
Joy.
But today, we're at Mawdryn Undead, the episode that attempted to address the unit dating controversy, but in doing so, actually completely fucked it up even further. But this is Mawdryn Undead. What happens in Mawdryn Undead, dear?
Actually, remind me what the unit dating controversy is.
Okay, I'll get into it a little bit more, because I'm going to talk about it, but basically the whole point of the unit dating controversy is that episodes... It's unknown whether the episodes during the Third Doctor's era are set during the 70s or the 80s, because they never say a specific time, because at the time the script editor was like, I don't want to put a specific time on this because I don't want to date it.
I thought you meant people were dating.
No, not that. It's an actual dating controversy, not a relationship controversy.
Listen, I don't know.
How would this episode solve a relationship thing?
I don't know. Fucking Doctor Who's weird. Okay. Well, listen, we're at a place with a school, and there's dudes running around very gaily, and then a man is polishing his car that he likes way too much, and telling another man about it, and other man thinks the car is dull and ugly. Their names are Turd and Hippo. Yes, that is their names. Really want to drive the car. One is named Hippo, technically.
That's his nickname.
It's still his name. Anyway, they really want to drive the car while everyone around cheers them into peer pressure, and off they go down the road. It was just down to the gate, right? Oh no, what shenanigans they must be getting into. He's even driving on the wrong side of the road and crash. He's dead. Good. Which sends Turd into a weird optical illusion where he sees himself, and Death is a man with a leopard print jacket and a crow on his head, but he's like, haha, I'm actually your guardian. Apparently, he was only sleeping. He also hates Earth and wants to leave. Then there's apparently going to be terms to this arrangement, and he's like, I'm not dead yet, cool. And the Brigadier is here and goes, wow, that was an idiot, that was my car. Meanwhile, Crowhead Man, who might be Death, might not be, wants to murder some people. But we are only going to murder one person, the Doctor. Please tell me yes or no. And he's like, yeah, sure, okay. And then he wakes up and Turd is fine, I guess. Because, reasons. Anyway, Tegan is... Oh, fuck, I'm sorry. Tegan has still got the Mara, maybe? She's just worried about it? No, she doesn't have it, but she has bad dreams and PTSD. And she's just really not wanting to do this again because, Jesus, fuck. Princess has a nice new outfit, and Tegan just wants some rest. Meanwhile, the TARDIS hits turbulence and science bullshit. Cut back to Turdman being put on a bed, and he had a concussion and doesn't want to sleep. And also, you should sleep with a concussion. Also, wow, you have this weird crystal. Isn't it strange looking? It looks exactly like the shower knob that I had as a child. Literally. In my bathroom.
Yeah. It is a little bit shower knobby.
It is 100% just a shower knob with a light in it. That's all it is. Anyway. Headmaster comes in and goes, you fucked up the Brigadier's car, my dude, you suck. And then Turd literally throws Hippo in the bus saying, like, actually it was him? And they're like, oh yeah, okay. And then they leave and he looks at the crystal again. And Crowhead Man comes to talk to him saying, I'll be with you tonight.
Oh, wait.
Tegan is worried that we don't know what we hit. And when we open the window, we see a ship coming right at us. So we materialize onto it to avoid a crash. Back at school, we hear how Hippo is being expelled, and the Brigadier walks by and goes, you're an asshole. But then the headmaster isn't going to do anything until he finds out what Turd is actually doing, because you know, they don't want a controversy. We also aren't sure who we believe at all. Also, Turd's parents are both dead. Isn't that a coincidence? Hippo goes to see Turd and he's freaking out about everything, and Turd lies and says I told him it was my fault, which is bullshit. And then they just run the fuck off. Meanwhile, the doctor is in a very fancy spaceship for very fancy people, and everyone is looking around at all the pretty things. And we see a nearby computer and it has a video game, and Turd and Hippo are just running to something. And the doctor finds something that tells him it's been flying for over 3,000 years. That's weird. Turd and Hippo now sit on a bench and wait. And then we hear a voice telling them to push a button. Princess, by the way, has found a thing that is in transmit mode. People left the ship like 6 years ago, I guess, to Earth, maybe. Turd pushes the button, has found the transmit they were just talking about. So we all go back to the TARDIS, yeah? Anyway, meanwhile, Turd goes straight for the capsule that appears and gets inside, which then shows up on the rich person ship that the doctor's on. He fucks with the computer, pulling out the shower knob again, and talks to it. We're a little brainwashed, and we'll do a destroy the doctor, I guess. Hippo has a run all the way back to the school and is very scared, finds the brig, and tells him about the capsule. P.S. The TARDIS won't materialize. The Brigadier is being a fucking asshole for no reason and calls the kid fat, and then we fix the TARDIS and go under the hood, yeah. And Turd has found the TARDIS and looks at it before the doctor runs outside. He watches, then goes into the TARDIS. Transmat beam is fucking the TARDIS up, so something is fucking with it because they're similar, I guess, apparently. They have the same wavelength. One can't materialize if the other's... It's weird. The problem is on Earth, though. The ship left, and it's been gone for 6 years, right? So cut to Turd in the TARDIS, and the doctor only recognizes him after a second. Everyone has found Hippo and Turd. They have left, by the way, and the Brigadier is like, what the fuck? The girls are extremely curious about what the fuck he's saying, by the way, because they're like, I don't understand, like, why are you saying these things? They don't line up, it's weird. Turd wants to go with the doctor to Earth, by the way, and they use a capsule to get back. The doctor pulls out a remote and follows the signal before finding the thing he wants, and there's a box inside, and inside is the box's stuff. And Crowhead comes back and goes, hey, pick up that rock and kill the doctor because I'm the Black Guardian. And then Turd picks up the rock to smash the doctor's head in.
Hey, the Black Guardian. Remember the Black Guardian, dear?
Kinda. Faintly.
The Black Guardian from the season with the amazing Romana in season 16, I want to say? Yeah, season 16. The Key to Time. The main antagonist of it was the Black Guardian. He said, I'll get you for this, Doctor, and your little dog too. He said he would get his revenge, and now he's getting it. Woo! It's the Black Guardian trilogy. Womp womp womp. So, initially, we got the Brigadier in this. Initially, it wasn't going to be the Brigadier. It was going to be Ian Chesterton, played by William Russell, who... you may remember, dear, is your favorite companion of the First Doctor.
Ooh.
But he, unfortunately, was unavailable. And it would have made sense, too, because, you know, being at a school, he was a school teacher. He was going to be essentially just teaching science at the school. So he was unavailable. So, like, okay, who else could we get? And they're like, oh, we could bring Harry Sullivan back. But they were like, I'm not too sure. And then they were just like, hang on a second, why don't we just bring back the Brigadier again? They're like, yeah, sure, that works. It turns out, including the Brigadier in this, led to a lot of dating controversies. We'll get to it after, like, episode 3. I'll talk about it. But a lot of a lot of problems arise from it that they didn't really think about.
No problems.
But this episode also originally took a slot that was given to another story, which was delayed and eventually didn't get finished until Big Finish came along with a tiny little lost stories and remade it, called The Song of the Space Whale, or Space Whale, or as Big Finish called it, The Song of the Megaptera.
Is it a 38 decibel whale?
What?
So there's a whale that is completely sad because it is at a different decibel than all other whales, and there's like a few of them out in the ocean, so like they can never communicate with other whales. I was just wondering if it was like a 38 decibel whale. That's all I was wondering.
No, it's about it was the story was essentially about a group of harvesting pirates, not really pirates, but like a captain and a crew going along to hunt space whales, and by pure accident they capture the TARDIS, and they realize that inside a giant space whale is a civilization that has been cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Essentially, the whole rest of the universe, they've just been cut off and inside this whale, and they thought it was that was the whole universe. And initially, the character of Turlough was going to be one of the group colonists, but since it was cancelled, they replaced it with this instead. And Turlough was initially conceived as a morally dubious companion, because they wanted one for quite a while, a companion that's a little bit more morally dubious than normal, a little bit more combative to the Doctor and that sort of thing, does things that, the Doctor wouldn't entirely do. But they tried that with Adric initially, but then they immediately decided to not do it, and were like, well, shit, what do we do with Adric now? And we're like, well,
kill him.
We can't really do anything. Kill him. But then they were like, okay, we'll try again. Let's go.
Let's stop trying.
And now we have Turlough. We have Turlough now.
Mm-hmm.
I do like Turlough. He's an absolute coward, and a vindictive piece of shit. At points, my favorite thing about Turlough is the way that Tegan interacts with him. Because Turlough's like, come on, guys, I'm a good guy. I'm here to help. And then Tegan's like, fuck off. I can see through your bullshit. You're gonna run away at the first sign of danger and leave us all to die.
Yeah.
It's great. But anyway, he initially was going to get a choice to do some quote-unquote real acting in a soap opera called Angels, and was told by the producer that it was either a choice between doing real acting with her or getting more money on Doctor Who. John Nathan Turner replied that it was a choice between one of 12 regular cast members or one of 4. So he made the choice a lot easier for Turlough's actor. Mark Strickson, who plays Turlough, initially being blonde, needed to be made less Davison-like. So the first thought was to shave his head, but Strickson said he'd only do it if 6 months loss of earnings money was added to his fee after his left, so he could regrow it. The ginger dye offset his eyes and was shown to be practicable. God, I can't say words today. In a short time of each day of filming, he and his girlfriend selected the uniform, choosing a size of trousers that were too short to make him seem a lot younger than he actually was. So that's why it looks a little weird. He is basically just an adult in a high school uniform, which is kind of funny. But there's a reason for it, and we do get to the reason eventually. But yeah, what happens in part 2, dear?
Well, we missed throwing the rock because it's apparently hard to hit him, and we hit the box instead with the big old rock, and the Doctor doesn't assume anything for any reason, and then the TARDIS comes back to Earth after a moment. Turd makes a comment that the Doctor goes, how the fuck do you, whatever, but then the TARDIS actually hasn't really showed up, which is weird. Where'd it go? The crystal won't talk back to Turd, which is sad for the moment. He's sad about it. Yeah. Where is he gone? We don't know. Birdman, please. The girls go outside at the TARDIS, and they can't find anyone either. The Doctor's like, oh, the Doctor, whoa, it's you. The Doctor, yeah, the girls have noticed the school and see someone off in the distance somehow. Meanwhile, there's a capsule, and the girls go inside and find the Doctor, maybe? Dying on the floor. He wants to know where he is, and he can't remember, but he needs to crawl for the TARDIS. The Brigadier just takes the boys and goes back to school while the girls drag this Doctor into the TARDIS. The Doctor shows up again and tells the Brig that he regenerated and that he wants his TARDIS. The Brig's like, I don't know what you're talking about, and this should be secret, I guess, maybe. The girls think that hold on. Okay, I'm good. The girls think that Turd might be an issue when we put a jacket over the Doctor, and they just kind of go, well, I guess we'll watch him. And then Turd goes back to his room and cries. Doctor asks him about the mission, and he keeps blowing him off, by the way. Meanwhile, The other dying doctor is saying things that are unstable and in pain, and the brigadier is living in a cabin in which he and the not dying doctor walk into to chat. So we try to talk about Unit. He's like, I don't know what the TARDIS is or remember you. What the fuck? And he's like, there has to be some connection, and the brig isn't aware that he's amnesia'd. That's weird. We also ask about Benton, and he's like, well, he left the army, and Sullivan's doing secret shit, and Joe isn't remembered at all. Sarah Jane is also not remembered, by the way. What the fuck? He's having a breakdown about Liz, too, and the brig is now remembering a bunch of stuff that happened, and has now remembered everything, and goes, hi, doctor, which is weird, and Tegan has made her way down to the school, by the way. So, wait, how could we forget all about that trauma that we had? Something happened, and the brig is freaking the fuck out, talking about how he's feeling fine, but he's not fine. He's never fine inside. Yeah.
Mood.
The dying doctor is like waking up okay-ish, and the brigadier is apparently a teacher because he's math. He's a math teacher. Tegan is run up and asks for a doctor. That's about it. And then the brigadier talks about how he remembers the Tegan and how he met her before, but in the past. Cut to her meeting the brig in the past when he was younger, and they go into his house. So the TARDIS is in the past, sort of, and we need to bring the brig to remember exactly what happened. Turd is in bed and is being spoken to about killing the doctor with the headmaster. And Turd is like, no, I want to pull out because no one has paid attention to me and I will leave. And he's like, what the fuck? And headmaster asks if this is his final choice and then turns into the fucking crowhead and tells him to fucketh off. And when we get out of bed, he's even left his own body, and Crow's like, I'll fucking destroy him. I swear to God, Turd, do not be a child. And he's like, yeah, okay. Brainwashed again. And then Tegan mentions that the TARDIS again and gets oh, it's the doctor. I understand exactly what you mean. Hi. Turd, meanwhile, has finally gotten out of bed, freaks out, turning sheets into rope, and escapes. The doctor is wanting him to think about Tegan again, and Tegan, having heard about the Silver Jubilee, now knows that they're in the wrong time. But then past Brig gets a call, and we're told that Turd is gone again. Tegan, meanwhile, is using a cube that she was given to search for the TARDIS. So wait, is that thing that was in the capsule the future doctor? Is like, no, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. Also, Princess is walking around, and fake doctor is walking around, but it's not the doctor. And he's saying that he perpetually is regenerating and will be changing forms repeatedly. He also asks if she'll navigate the ship without Tegan, and is like, do it, please! And then she just kind of runs off. He also starts to talk about the Time Lord's leaving, and his name is Mawdryn, and he wants to be a Time Lord. And the brig is like, I've seen regeneration, and then they all run into the TARDIS together. Also, Mawdryn has changed again. He has a vampire cape, and his brain is sticking out.
Oh. He gets a little bit of brain on himself. Little brain sticky outy.
Little brain sticky outy.
Little brain.
Mhm.
Little brain.
Mhm.
Brain out.
Mhm.
Brain. So, Nicholas Courtney, who played the brig, later revealed that he was absolutely baffled by the script and he had no fucking clue what any of it was. He was so confused. Also, former producer Graham Williams, who actually created the Black and White Guardians, didn't even know about their return in this season and only learned about it years later during an onstage interview at a Doctor Who convention. He's like, wait, what? Oh, okay. Sure. Like, I guess. Also, a weird sort of thing. Peter Grimmade's previous story, Time Flight, also takes place in two different time zones. Like, not in the same sort of way, but it's kind of weird that it's happened twice so quickly.
Yeah.
That he is the same thing. But he based the whole public school setting on his own upbringing. Because he went to an all-boys private establishment in Cornwall, and he knew the background of a dreadful minor public school very well. He basically used the horror of public school living like that to create true horror in the writing of this story. Although the true horror was the pacing.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, the true horror is the pacing of this story. It's got problems, let's be honest. Supposedly, take this with about a bucket of salt, Ian Levine, self-appointed continuity fan supreme on the show as a consultant who hired himself, pointed out that setting the story in 1977 would break the continuity of the Brigadier's original serials. But he was overruled, supposedly, so he tried to stop them. But again, it's Ian Levine, and I wouldn't trust a fucking single word that he says, because he's not exactly the best at telling the truth on things. Also, Peter Davison kind of was baffled by the story as well. He thought there was an awful lot of holes in the plot and was amazed that the audience didn't notice. And he sort of goes on to say that it claimed it taught him a lesson about plots in general. It's like, I guess some people just don't care about plot holes and that. It's like, kind of. More the fact that this story has a lot of flashing keys to jangle instead.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the little communication showerhead thing that Dia's talking about was attached to a car battery to make the light in it bright enough to be seen on camera. And each scene with it supposedly had to be 14 seconds long, otherwise it got too hot for him to hold. Which, yeah, that sounds like something they would have done in Doctor Who back then. Was like, yeah, just attach a car battery to it, but it's too hot, then let go.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what happens in part 3?
Okay, so the Doctor is putting together the pieces now and talking with the old Brigadier. He doesn't want to remember things, but that might be the trauma that started some shit. But then the Doctor finds the shower knob in the bed and runs back to the TARDIS while Turd goes for the capsule. Tegan is upset about what the fuck Brainy Boy is doing and calls it a mutation. The Brigadier thinks it might be the Doctor, maybe, but he wants to go to his laboratory and hurry up. The girls don't want to do that, and they don't want to leave Turd because he doesn't belong here, but the capsule isn't working. They continue to argue about what happened to the Doctor and want to return to the TARDIS. Meanwhile, the Doctor and Turd are chatting about science. The Brain Boy is like, all my friends, yes, you are all my friends, help me. The Brig is like, guess we should, because we don't know. Future Brig is asking the Doctor if the capsule will work, and we return Turd his crystal, and Turd's like, oh fuck. Brain asks them to do things, and there's an alarm about it. Turd is sent to check the beacon, and then the Doctor asks the Brig more things. What if the two Brigadiers met each other, though? It'd be fucking horrible. Big boom, bada bang. But then Turd goes outside and has his box exploded. And the Brain Boy is like, did he materialize? And Princess wants to listen. And Tegan thinks that the alarm was that he was not the real Doctor. Also, Tegan gave the Brig her homing device, and we need to get it. It's back at the hut. Brain Boy is leaving because they're heading back to the rich ship. Tegan is like, you can regen without people, you could die. It's bad, don't do that. And they keep arguing about if he's the Doctor or not. We get the Brig's tracker and it's not working, so we gotta repair it. Princess and Brigadier finally find the cave, open the door, and out he goes. Which also the Doctor repaired his cube and remembered some stuff. And the Brady Boy couldn't have moved without the TARDIS, and the past Brig goes to follow him, by the way. So the capsule shows back up on the ship. Everyone hunts out to figure out this weird shit. Brain Boy has crawled back over to the faces in the wall that were in the original ship. He goes, please help me awaken, please. And the Doctor doesn't remember something he saw and takes the older Brig with him, and Turds finds the girls. We find the super secret switch, which opens the console, and we realize it's a regeneration thing stolen from Gallifrey. And Brain Man is begging some statues to help him because he's going to die, and then he falls over. Meanwhile, Turd is being yelled at by his shower knob. The Brigadier assumes that brain dude might be dead or undead, says the Doctor. Yeah, okay, sure. It wants to regenerate, apparently, but we don't know why. We also have 8 regenerators, so maybe there's more of them on board or something? That's weird. Turd has made his way to the statue photos, and one has glowy eyes, and turns into Crowhead for a moment, and he's like, ah! And then we gotta reach out a hand and touch the thing, which opens a door, which has more Brain Boys. And the Doctor is fucking with the generation shit, and Brigadier is very uncomfortable. But then here's young Brigadier talking and goes outside to check, almost running into one another. Jesus Christ! Brain Boy is dragging himself across the floor, while the other Brain Boys have awoken. Older Brig is back at the regeneration thing and has found Brain Boy on the floor. This one is acting like the Doctor, but the real Doctor's in the TARDIS. And the old Brig is now regenning the fucking Brain Boy because he thinks it's the Doctor, I guess. Brig is like, you're not the fucking Doctor, though, so where's the Doctor? Doesn't matter because I guess we never die. The Doctor realizes that there are 2 Brigadiers in the same space and everyone runs out of the TARDIS. The young Brig is seeing the Brain Boys walking down the hallway. He hides. Tegan is asked to stay outside to make sure that the Brigadier doesn't come in. Turd is running for the TARDIS. Doctor finds the old Brigadier. He welcomes the Doctor while still dying. And the Turd is flicking the switches on the TARDIS and trying to leave, and then is yelled at by Crowhead. So we are to stay here and see the Doctor's demise. They apparently take on the appearance of natives of a planet and want to be stabilized. They also blame the Time Lords for not teaching them how to fix all this, even though they stole it in the first place. Tegan almost gets caught by the Brain Boys and runs into the room with the others. But here's the thing, if we help all of them, it will kill the Doctor.
Oh, poor Doctor.
Yeah.
So, unit dating controversy. Let's get into it.
Woo!
Let me put it like this. The nub of the narrative problem stems from this serial. If this serial didn't exist, or if it wasn't the Brigadier, it wouldn't be as big of a problem. The whole problem stems from this. Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart retired from unit in 1976. That's what they say in this story. He retired from unit in 1976. But the invasion, the second Doctor story, where the Cybermen invade and we actually meet Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart for the first time, approximately occurs in 1979. So the whole controversy basically boils down to, how did the Brigadier retire from unit before unit even existed? That's what this falls under. Which is why it all comes back from this whole problem of, like, it was meant to be Ian Chesterton in this instead of the Brigadier, and it would have made perfect sense for Ian, because, you know, he came back in his time, and he's a little bit older, but it's, you know, there's no time travel there. A lot of writers to do with Doctor Who have sort of notably said that there's no simple way to retcon the problem, and you gotta do some sort of timey-wimey shit to do it. But it's a lot of little things here and there. This story blows open the problem to be an actual writing problem. Terrence Dix, who was a script editor during the Third Doctor era, said that he deliberately avoided giving dates during his time as script editor precisely to avoid these sorts of continuity headaches, which is hilarious because in doing that he created them. Although it did lead to the fact that due to having no dates for a lot of them, a lot of the Third Doctor's era barely contributes to the dating controversy. But a lot of things have made reference to it, particularly in the new series. They make a lot of reference to it. Like whenever they reference unit or something, they'll say like, check the unit files. It'll be under either 70s or 80s, because that was the thing. It's like the Third Doctor's era was meant to be set in the 80s. That was kind of implied that it was meant to be 10 years in the future, but it was never explicitly stated. So it's like, was it the 70s when it came out, or was it the 80s like they said it was set in the future? So they make sly little references to it here and there. But other things as well. Some books and audio pieces have tried to explain it as some sort of, you know, time event of like, oh, the Doctor has spent so much time going to the 70s and 80s that like time is weak and the 2 decades have kind of merged in a way. It's like 2 decades in one, so it's like, oh, that's kind of clever, I guess. There's also another one where it's like time, sort of existence of a parallel universe, that sort of thing. It's like, that's probably another way to deal with it. It's one of those things where it's like, this is a kind of a big problem if you care about sort of timeline stuff, but considering it's a show about time travel, it's like, you can easily write it away. Like, there are other things of like, hey, how come this other Doctor doesn't remember a story that came out after they left or whatever? And it's like, oh, you know, one of my favorite examples is the 8th Doctor has audio adventures with Mary Shelley as a companion. She joins after writing, like, he basically inspires her to write Frankenstein. But in the TV show, the 13th Doctor actually has an adventure with Mary Shelley, and they don't know each other initially. So it's like, oh, no, how can the 8th Doctor have traveled with her, but also this? And it's like, hey, a very easy way that people deal with this sort of stuff is because of time travel, that thing in the past no longer happened. It just didn't happen anymore.
I just don't care. personally.
I mean, you can not care, but this is the kind of show where people do kind of care about that thing in a fun way. Like, it's not like people get angry about it. I mean, some people do, obviously, but it's not the kind of thing where people will be like, no, this needs to fit. It's more a case of like, okay, how can we make this fit? Let's have some fun, put our heads together, and try and figure out how to make this make sense. It's like you're given a puzzle and you're excited to put the pieces together, rather than, you gave me a piece that doesn't fit, fuck you.
Yeah.
That's the kind of show that this is, especially with the whole time travel element. But that's it. It's purely down to the fact that they put a date on this and they didn't think to check. They just didn't think to check, so it kind of opened up this whole world of like, oh god, how do we want to deal with this? Do we want to make fun of it? Do we want to reference it in a sly little way? Do we want to try and fix it? What do we want to do? And everyone takes their own different approach. But anyway, what happens in the next final part?
The final countdown. He's dead again. Anyway, so the doctor can only regen 12 times. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's not. And then they all want his regenerations because it saved them. And everyone wants to leave, but the doctor has to give him their shit of his own free will. Meanwhile, the young brigadier is walking around. Turd is informed that both the brigadiers are here. So wait, we need to find the older one and keep them the fuck apart. The doctor wants to figure out them to figure out their shit themselves, and like, dude, we've tried for centuries and it's never happened. And Turd has found the younger brigadier, by the way, and the doctor wants to refuse and turns away to leave, and they go, well, this will be your fault if you leave. And he's like, no one really knows what he means. And then they all leave together. The young brigadier and Turd are heading off and don't want to meet up with the Brain Boys, and they've apparently done it so well that the doctor will return apparently. The Brain Boys, I mean. And now everyone is trying to fucking avoid the Brigadier and etc. while they get to the TARDIS. Turd, however, has locked the young Brigadier in a room for safekeeping. They're all hoping that the Brig and Turd are on the TARDIS because they gotta go. But they see Turd outside and the doctor goes after him and the doctor says some shit and he goes and gets in the capsule with the Brigadier that go to that one place, please. And yeah, because you gotta get out of here. Too bad he's headed off to get the Brig and the Brain Boys are still walking around. The doctor's like, okay, let's go. TARDIS swoops away with the older Brigadier, but then something's happening, and we see Tegan and the princess getting all old and shit and getting fucked up. They've been contaminated, and traveling through time accelerates their death. And then the young Brigadier, by the way, has broken out of his room because you can't keep a young man down. Haha. Tegan and the princess are doing better because they've traveled back to the ship. Brain Boys are outside, of course, watching all of this. The doctor has a wonder and says some more science shit. Then the TARDIS swoops away, leaving the young Brigadier specifically coming up to talk to the Brain Boys. But even with the stuff happening, Tegan and the princess are now babies? Because if they go back in time, it reverses. And the young Brigadier is put in a capsule and sent back to Earth, by the way. The doctor is talking about how the capsule can't leave if the TARDIS is here, so he's not gone, actually. But then they can't get off the ship without hurting Princess and Tegan. So, well, fuck. Turd has made his way to the secret room to talk about the shower knob, which yells at him, and he has one more chance to kill the doctor or get absolutely fucked. So the doctor goes back outside, goes to all the Brain Boys, and goes like, y'all fucking assholes, you knew this was gonna happen. And wait, does anyone have any ideas at all to, like, do this? He's like, well, I guess I could give him my regeneration or whatever, because I don't have a choice. Meanwhile, the Brigadier is realizing that Doctor's TARDIS. That's the doctor's TARDIS. Searching cube is in the capsule. He takes it, and all the Brain Boys are headed back to the lab again. And Turd hides and watches. The young Brigadier is in the TARDIS again, and then leaves. Tegan and the princess are hooked up to the machine so that everyone can be saved. The Brigadier is very sad about everything that's happening, and at the end, the doctor's not going to be a Time Lord anymore. Turd is looking for the other Brig, by the way, and everyone is walking around, and they almost meet up again. Turd tries to stop that from happening. That's not great. They touch hands, by the way, for a second, because they've met in the room, and they're like, oh god, and everything gets all fucked up and real bad. The shower knob gets cracked, by the way, and I guess Turd is free from that. Also, the doctor's like, okay, I guess, and the energy discharge from the Brig caused everything to be okay, because, yeah, old Brigadier's awake, young is not. That's how he lost all his memory, I guess. Old Brigadier is sent to the center of the TARDIS. The doctor deals with young Brigadier. The Brain Boys, I guess, are now all dead, which they technically wanted that anyway. So yeah, we get a thank you from Tegan, and we drag the young Brig's body out. and the ship they're on is also dying, and everyone's onto the TARDIS, which swoops into the correct time, and includes the school and someone. And we lay him on the ground, knocked out, and go, "We bye," and then we run off to be found on his own. Because that's how the brig is going to be found, and he's going to become a teacher, I guess. Turd is in the TARDIS fucking with some shit, and we drop off the older brig and ask him to hang out with us for some time. But everyone runs back onto the TARDIS, finding him flicking switches and shit. Turd, what the fuck? And he's like, "Okay, I'm coming with you." And he's like, "Okay, the other ship blew up. Okay, sure."
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
You can come with.
Yeah.
That's Mawdryn Undead. It's, in my opinion, the weakest of the Black Guardian trilogy. I feel like it would have been better if it was Ian Chesterton, and it would have been better if they... Because I read a kind of essay that talks about the problems with this, and they kind of rush through the, like, trauma that they're going for here. Like, the whole scene where the Brigadier is just like, "Oh, everything's fine, like, I'm fine, I don't have trauma." Like, that, like, it lasts the whole scene, and then it's just dropped for the rest of the episode. And Mawdryn and co keep saying that they're in so much pain, but, like, they walk around the ship fine. Like, it's like the episode is just kind of rushing to get to the end, but still lags its way there, and it just feels like they needed another rewrite on it. Oh, like another set of eyes to be like, "Hang on a sec, you need to change this," that sort of thing.
Yep.
But that's Mawdryn Undead. What do you think?
It's like a 4, really. I didn't hate it, right?
It wasn't terrible.
It's not the worst, but also I don't really give a fuck about it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it as well. It's like, it's not the worst, but it's like, I've watched it. I kind of don't want to watch it again. You're not really going to get anything more out of it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, the only reason to watch it again would be to maybe try and find some clues for the dating controversy if you wanted to. Which not a lot of people will.
Totally want to do that.
But anyway, we have Turlough on the TARDIS team now. It's Turlough, Tegan, Nissa, and the Doctor. And Adric? Oh, wait. No. Anyway, next episode. It's all one word. You're not going to get it. Terminus.
Woo.
Terminus.
Like terminal cancer.
Terminus? You're not far off. You're not far off. Oh, boy. Let's get to Terminus.
Woo!
Kill the Doctor.
Woo!